Hi, Sarah Nickerson. I am the founder of NextGEN Medium, which is all about people receiving information that I can pass along, as well as people developing this stuff for themselves. I believe everybody has psychic, mediumship, intuitive abilities, and it's just a matter of kind of reframing how you understand things, knowing where to go in your brain to receive and connect and to trust what you get. And so my website, NextGEN Medium, is all about development stuff and sharing my experiences to help people with their developments and maybe get a little bit of validation for their experiences. I also offer consultation and readings for developing people as well as people who just want a reading. And so nextgenmedium.com is where you can go for that stuff. But one of the things I like to do is I like to bring my vlog to Reddit and see what kind of questions people have on Reddit and these different subreddits that are about mediumship, they're about energy work or about spirituality, stuff like that. Because I think there's a lot of questions in here that I can bring to people who are developing and give my 2 cents on what I would give for advice for people that are asking questions on Reddit. So we're going to the subreddit of mediums. And there is one post here that I really want to dive into because there's a lot of stuff in here. This person is new to this stuff, but being new, there's sort of some norms and some things that need to have attention called about. So I think this is a great question because there's a lot of ethical things in here that I think it took time for me to figure out. And so I want to bring that to people who are developing, just to lay it out there. Okay, so the question about how to handle message received for someone. I think this is a great thing to talk about here. Okay, let's go through it, and I'm going to give my thoughts as things kind of go through, and then I'll give my kind of final thought. I am a newer medium in the sense that I've only been aware of my gifts for the last 2 years. First of all, these are abilities that, this is from my point of view, these are abilities that everybody has, so calling them gifts means some people have them, some people don't. I think we need to look at it as everybody has these abilities. You have become more in tune, maybe more aware of how to tap into things. That's what makes you different. Okay, so for the last 2 years, I grew up in a very religious household, and what I always thought were conversations I regularly had with the Holy Spirit turned out to be my guides and spirits of those who have passed. It's really hard with religion for someone to be open to the concepts of mediumship and spirituality, even though they seem really closely linked in our modern civilization. They really aren't. There are a lot of different things about them. So that's interesting. That's interesting that that's part of your experience. I think my skills developed over many years, unbeknownst to me. From my perspective, you've always had these skills. From my perspective, something allowed you perspective on how to tap into them. Okay. When I discovered that I was indeed communicating with those that have passed, I began to experiment and had much success very quickly. That happened for me too. Up until 6 months ago, my husband and children were the only ones aware of my gift. However, I was speaking to my husband's grandmother who had passed a year before, and she gave me a message for my mother-in-law. After a few days of nervous debate with myself, I decided to share the message with my mother-in-law and, quote, came out of the closet. So it sounds like the grandmother came out of the closet. It did not go so well. My mother-in-law is immersed in that same religion I grew up in, and I scared her. She told me thank you, but if I talked to Grandma again, she didn't want to know. Her reaction destroyed my confidence, and I didn't attempt to contact any spirits again. I had a lot of anxiety about it because I loved my mother-in-law so much, and it hurt. So there's a couple things here. One is developing on your own using your resources. the discarnates that have passed away. I've done that with my husband's grandfather, and it produced information that solidified me in knowing that mediumship was an ability I had, that I could even call myself a medium, that these were tools accessible to me. And how long have I been able to do this? And I had no idea. It's hard when religion's in the mix. So I would say it's hard when you're really excited that you have information and you want to share it with people. But when it comes to people's openness, I guess if you went to the mother-in-law and said, hey, let's sit down. I want to talk about something. And it might be out of the realm of how we understand the world because of our religion. It's really hard for me to think of how I could tactfully go about this subject with someone that is very religious, without like offending. But then again, you know, everybody has their own beliefs. So for that person to be offended by something that I want to share because of my belief, I don't know. That's that would be your call and how you want to pursue that. And it kind of makes me sad that you were so affected by this person's reaction. You have no control over anybody's reaction. I will say, if you came straight out with the information without kind of gearing this person up for a sort of impact, that I can see how that person would not be so accepting of this information or even your gift, your ability. So that's a hard one. And if you're going into mediumship and that one thing destroys your confidence, I'm kind of concerned right there. I'm kind of concerned. Because if you are in line with your truth, that was information that needed to be passed along, and your instinct, your intuition told you it was the right thing to do, and you went through with it, then you did your job. That person not accepting it, that is out of your control. And you know what? That is the whole deal with mediumship. How someone reacts to your information is out of your control. However, when you give the information, we're going to talk about that a little bit more because there's more coming up here in the story. Let's see. I had anxiety. Loved her. I really connected. Okay. Yesterday I had my first ever Reiki session. I've never done Reiki. I don't know what it's about. I know it has to do with energy, flow of energy, but other than that, I don't really know what Reiki's about. I really connected with the therapist. I felt like kindred spirits. While on the table, I began to do energy work on myself, cleared my chakras, and tried to help facilitate this healing. After a bit, I felt compelled to do energy work on the therapist. This is a... While silently working on her, I felt a presence trying to connect, and I hesitantly opened up. All right, there's a couple of things here that make me, I don't want to say cringe, but that make me go, oh no. First question is, did your therapist okay you to work on their energy? If that wasn't even part of the conversation, then you do not go there. That is impeding on their energy. On the other hand, the therapist probably knows how to deal with that situation, even if they're not aware of it. But you do not work with other people's energy unless you have permission. So silently working on her without her knowing is a big no-no. That's a big no-no. And I know nothing about Reiki, but I would not want anybody doing energy work on me without me knowing. That's invasive. That's my privacy. And further, opening up, she connected with a family member of hers, received a message. I was too scared to say anything. I decided to go home and Google what I could to find out who this person was and if I was on the mark. My confidence has increased 100-fold because everything I received was so spot on, and it would have been very impressive had I had the guts to speak to the therapist then and there. Whoa. Okay. I don't want to make you feel like a bad person. You are new to this, and you need to understand boundaries. And that's why I'm even talking about this, because this needs to be known. Opening up when someone doesn't give you permission to open up on their energy, on their people, that's crossing a line. That's not okay. Some people are okay with, providing that service to others without any compensation or anything. That's fine. That's your choice. But to open up, sometimes you don't mean to do it. And sometimes it just comes in, you start getting information. I would say if you are actively doing it, if you're intentionally doing it, there's a problem there of boundaries. You gotta have boundaries. The other thing that really strikes me is you saying, I was on the mark. I was spot on, and it would have been very impressive had I the guts to speak to the therapist then and there. The fact that you're putting impressive in there just shows me what kind of energy you're bringing to your abilities, and it's to impress people. And maybe that's not the term you want to use, whatever the case might be. You never go into using your abilities to impress people. The goal should be understanding, helping people understand. The goal should be insight. Never should a goal be, look what I can do. And the fact that you get kind of excited about it, I can get that being a new person and seeing accuracy happen and feeling like, oh my God, this makes me feel so good. But that's your ego getting in the way. And if the ego is going to get in the way, then your messaging's not going to be great after a while. Ego will get in the way, and then you'll hold things back because you're afraid of what someone's going to think. And I think there's a lot of work you need to do on that egoic piece. You're brand new. It's expected. And you're going to come across these things. But to build integrity in what you do, these are a couple things to think about. I'm going to keep going with this. So because everything I received was so spot on, it would have been very impressive had I the guts to speak to the therapist then and there. Now I find myself wondering if I should reach out to the therapist, who I feel would absolutely be open to this idea, and give her the message. It's not like I'm asking for money or anything. So even if there was doubt to my legitimacy, there would be nothing for me to gain by it. Or do I just keep it to myself and use this to help build my confidence for future occurrence? The message that I received was from her. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. It has to do with financial stuff and a family member. Okay. Thank you for your opinion in advance. Blessings to you all. So I would say you receive something, you feel compelled to pass it along because you feel like the information is a benefit to the person that it's for. I would say first and foremost, you approach it with, so I opened up during our session and Sometimes I get mediumship stuff come through and I feel compelled to pass this along to you. And that's when the person can say, and that's where you say, would you like to know the information or would you prefer I don't give that to you? Give the person a choice, okay? They didn't, in this case, have the choice of you tapping in or not. So give them a choice here. They should have had the choice to begin with. If you're doing it to impress people, I don't like that. I don't like it. So my advice would be, see if the therapist is open to that. But I think something you need to do when it comes to your ethics is to tell the therapist that I'm going to actively not connect during our sessions in the future. It just kind of happened. And I think for someone in this kind of line of work, that might be appreciated. Also, don't do energy work on other people who don't ask for it. So there you go. I got links for this in the description below. And if you have a question for me, reach out to me here on Facebook, on Reddit, on my website, NextGEN Medium, @gmail.com. That's my email. Or you can fill out a form on my website. Either way, if you have anything you want to talk about with me, help you through your own process, maybe you have questions like this that you're just not sure about, the boundaries, please come ask me. And I would love to talk about it in my next YouTube video or whatever. Check out my podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, NextGEN Medium, the podcast. And that's to help you with your own development. So reach out, and thank you for that question on Reddit. I think that's going to help a lot of people, and I hope I brought value to this conversation.